I think, nope, here she is. Hi.
I was gonna steal her seat if not. Okay. I won't do that. You can have it. Because hers is taller than mine.
Well, good morning, everyone. I will call this Regional Transportation Commission meeting to order. It is 9 o'clock, and we will start with a roll call. If Mayor Lawson could please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Flag back there. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And Madam Clerk, if we could have the roll call.
Good morning. Sandra Rosenberg.
Here.
Ed Lawson. Alexis Hill.
Here.
Bill Thomas.
Here.
Mari Luz Garcia.
Here.
Hillary Sheeby.
Here.
Adam Spear.
Here.
Thank you. We have a quorum.
Thank you so much. We'll now move into public comment. Madam Clerk, do we have any public comment?
We have two comments. The first, Dan Golightly, and
Great.
then after that, Dora Martinez.
Wonderful. Welcome.
Hello, my name is Daniel. I wish this wasn't the first time or the nature of the first time that I had to talk to the board. In fact, I originally planned a fun idea for the spring, but anyway, here's what I have to say. I believe I need to bring to the board's attention a serious act of malpractice that I witnessed over my career with Keolis. Though dedicated, I was never a perfect employee and understand that I could easily be dismissed as just a jaded ex-employee. That is not my desire here. If my goal was to cause havoc, I could easily have done so since my login credentials to your guys' RTC alert page was still active weeks after my separation. During my near 4 years in dispatch, the operations manager and assistant operations manager gave us verbal instructions not to report or to underreport missed trips on the Lincoln and Virginia line. Their instructions were only to report the shortest block or paddle. I don't know what lingo you guys use. If 4 or more of these blocks were not going to run. This was to minimize the total appearance and the total amount that was not actually going to be alerted. These were hundreds and possibly thousands of missed trips over my career there that were never reported. To my knowledge, other managers and the general manager were not aware or not fully aware of this practice. Let me be clear, this was not just an occasional lapse. This was a routine practice that is still going on. This was a practice that was not just during labor shortages like COVID or strikes, which I continued to drive through when I was a driver, or any other type of labor shortage, but is, to my knowledge, still ongoing. Recently, these missed trips were largely due to the operation and assistant operation managers' attempt to reduce overtime of the drivers. Instead of following a proven past practice of allowing drivers to voluntarily sign up for open work for the next day, the previously mentioned managers arbitrarily chose to restrict handing out this open work, banking on the fact that if we ran short of drivers to cover the open work, they could pull drivers off the Lincoln line and Virginia line to cover these more vital routes. Since those Lincoln lines and Virginia lines were not going to be reported in the first place. As you know, missed trips are supposed to be reported and liquidated damages are supposed to be enforced. As a taxpayer now, I implore the board to investigate Keolis and hold them and their management accountable for this practice and command them to end this practice that defrauds the public and a service that the public desperately needs and uses. Lastly, please publish a list of the liquidated damages that Keolis has paid. I'd be kind of curious about that for my own self-discovery and research. Feel free to follow up with me if you have any questions or need assistance in investigating this claim. My contact information is on the card. Thank you for your time, and I hope you guys have a great and awesome day.
Thank you so much. Yes. Oh, that's okay. Oh, there it is. There we go.
Shut her up.
Okay. Okay, Dora,
I know.
please go ahead.
I thought you were pointing at me.
Never.
Talking. Oh, there you go. Good morning, Chair and Vice Chair and members of the commissioners. This is Dora Martinez, and I'm really nervous. I forgot what I was going to say. I want to thank Susie. Encourages me to be nice. I am nice. um, Mayor Shibi, I appreciate everything you do. Since you've been here, the disability ADA anniversary, we've been getting free trips, and some of my peers who are disabled really like that because they use that day to go shopping and do what they need to do because it saves them tickets. It's $3 an access tickets, and sometimes people who are on fixed income, they can't afford to go where they need to go because they got to buy, food or pay bills. So thank you for doing that, Mayor Shibi. You're my favorite mayor.
Oh,
And-
I'm your
and-
only mayor.
And
girl.
Ed Lawson, that's right.
You have to say that. I'm your only mayor.
So,
Dora,
and I
you're so
thank
sweet.
you, everyone, because every time I have a concern with the bus stops, you guys don't get on it as fast as I want you to, but you get on it. So, and I want to thank, I got to give credit to Mr. Marky Williams, who's always patient with me. And I know I get sort of assertive, but you got to, in order to get equity and equality for transportation, because I don't drive. I don't think anybody wants me on the road. So I use the buses a lot. And one time I went to the city of Reno's meeting, and we were coming to catch the bus, and we got harassed at the bus station with a person on a skateboard. He threw it in front of my husband, who's low vision, and was waiting for him to trip. And then when I walked past him, he blew marijuana in my face. And there was no security guard to be seen. So I don't go to the Reno station as much. I'm trying to get a taser. Maybe that's probably best for me to do, although I don't know if that's safe, but it's for my own safety because we'll use it to go back and forth. So I just want to say thank you for everything you all do, and please let's continue. Miss Alexis Hill, to see if we can put the shoppers route for RTC access riders, because sometimes we were on the bus and we have meat or dairy product and we're on the bus for over an hour or two. And thoughts out and it can expire, and that's what we use most of the time to go shopping. So I hope
Yes.
that can be in the study and approved. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We'll be discussing that later in the agenda. We appreciate that. Okay, any other public commenters, Madam Clerk?
No other commenters.
Okay, thank you. Well, we'll now move into item 3. This is approval of the agenda. Do we have any changes? Okay, I am looking for a motion.
Motion?
Thank you, Mayor Shivi. I'm looking for a second.
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Garcia. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, please say nay. That passes unanimously. We'll now move into consent. Any changes to consent?
Oh, motion.
Stop. Okay, thank you, Mayor Shivi. I've got a motion. Looking for a second.
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Garcia. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, please say nay. All right, we'll now move into our item 5, which is discussion items and presentations. 5.1, we'll receive an update on the 26 to 30 Move More with RTC plan and provide feedback and direction to staff, which is a perfect segue from the public comment that we just received. So, Mr. Thomas.
I think Alex is going to start it off for us.
Wonderful. Welcome.
Good morning, Commissioners. Alex Cruz, Senior Transit Planner for RTC Washoe for the record. As you know, staff has begun work on the TOPS plan update, which we are now calling Move More with RTC. As part of that process, we wanted to make sure that we update the board as far as where we're at in that process right now. So I'd like to introduce Gary Hewitt with TMD. He is leading the effort with TMD, and he's going to walk us through the update presentation.
Great. Good morning. Good morning, Chair, board members. Gary Hewitt with Transportation Management and Design. Okay, so going to give a brief overview of the Move More with RTC project. So it is the agency's short-range transit plan. It guides the development both for operational and capital improvements for the agency over a 5-year period. And it really serves as the work plan for the Public Transportation Department. So it has things in it like what's going to be changed along each route, kind of capital projects that could be purchasing buses, making improvements, as well as changes to policies and procedures. It also informs the regional transportation plan, which is the 20-year plan that the agency puts together. And these two plans should work together so that things that come out of the regional transportation plan kind of feed into the short-term, those short-term recommendations feed into this plan, as well as some of the recommendations in this plan could feed into the regional transportation plan in terms of changes to routes. This is a follow-up to the TOPS that was done in 2022. So we're coming back a little earlier to do this. Typically it's every 5 years. This time we're doing every 3 years, and you'll see there's a lot of changes, especially in travel patterns, and also the region seeing significant growth. So it makes sense to do this sooner than later. This time around, we're going to focus a lot on the access and senior mobility programs. I would say last time the focus was more on the bus service. We're definitely going to look at all of the services, but this time around we are dedicating resources to do kind of a deeper dive into those services. So I'm going to walk through some of our initial findings as we kind of in this part of the study, we look at some of the trends, both kind of in terms of travel as well as across the different transit services. And so one of the first things we did is gather travel demand trip data. So this is data for all trips. It's important to note this is not bus trips. This is all trips regardless of mode occurring within the RTC service area. And this is anonymized data collected from things like cell phones, car navigation systems. And we work with a vendor that compiles this information, and we can look at the change in activity over time. The chart in the upper right-hand corner of the slide is looking at weekday trips by hour of the day. And as you can see here, the gray bars are the 2019 trips by hour. The blue bars are the 2024 trips. And you can see across the day, trips are generally up in most hours. But the most significant increase has been in the late afternoon, early evening. You could also notice that during the morning commute times, trips are up, but they're not up at the same rate. And we've seen this not only in this region, but across the country. There's a kind of, we don't know exactly why this is happening, but we think it has to do with people working at home at least a couple days a week, and then making some trips in the evening that they would have maybe made on their way home from work, things like going shopping, eating, things like that. Overall, the trip activity between 2019 and 2024 on weekdays has increased by 38%. So that's kind of a big finding. So there's been sometimes we get that question, is trip activity, the same as pre-COVID, and you've seen a large increase here. On the weekends, which is the chart in the lower right-hand corner, you can see that trip activity has also increased, but also the demand has shifted a couple hours to the right. So the blue bars here are higher in 2024, and also they peak later in the afternoon. An important finding also, so weekend trip activity is up 48%. So weekend trip activity is growing faster than weekday trip activity. And it's interesting to note that the weekend activity in 2024 is now higher than what the weekday activity was in 2019. So the next thing we did is look at how this trip activity in 2024 matches up to the amount of bus service that's being provided throughout the day. And again, the upper right-hand chart is showing weekday service, and it's the percentage of trips occurring by hour and then the percentage of bus trips. So kind of see the same kind of, there's the RTC bus service generally kind of increases in the morning, and then they have about the same amount of service in the middle of the day and the afternoon peak, and then the frequency start to go down and routes start to end for the day. So there may be an opportunity on our weekdays to run some later afternoon and evening service, or keep the frequencies going a little later to match that change in trip demand. And then on weekends, you can kind of see that maybe the bus service is starting a little bit earlier than it should, and maybe it should be run a little bit later into the evening. It's also important to note that, as we talked about in the last slide, trip activity for weekends is now what it was on weekdays in 2019. However, the bus service levels overall are 25% less on weekends than weekdays. So there may be an opportunity here to catch this, this new trip market. This slide is showing the ridership trends on the different public transportation services that RTC offers. And the chart is kind of going back to 2018. As you could see, kind of pre-COVID, carrying about 750 to 800,000 riders per month. And then that dropped down to about 350,000 during the COVID stay at home, and then built its way back up. And you can see the kind of the lowest level was during the bus driver strikes in 2021. And it kind of rebounded, and it's been growing back ever since. And you guys have heard about kind of the month-over-month ridership growth shown on the slide here. The biggest increases since the last time we did the study in 2021 had been for the ride service has increased by 14%, and FlexRide has increased by 39%. And there was a lot of recommendations from the last tops to expand FlexRide, make some bigger zones, and so people are moving over to that. Of interest, you can see the access rides between 2021 and 2024 are basically the same, and that's attributed to a lot of access folks have moved over to FlexRide, which should be at a kind of lower overall cost to the agency, which is a good thing. But overall, ridership is still 24% the pre-pandemic levels, and as we talked about earlier, trip activity is up. So there's an opportunity here to catch more of that market. This slide is showing the ridership by the different services. And this is kind of on the right here, this is the relative weekday boarding. So these boxes, the size of the box is basically how many weekday boardings are occurring either on a route or the type of service. And so an important note here is that across all the public transportation services the agency offers, half of the boardings are occurring either on the Virginia or 4th and Prater corridor, so 52% of the boardings. So 1 out of every 2 riders is getting on or off a bus on that service, on those services. So anything you could do to improve service on that corridor really improves it for half of your customers. Those other services outside of fixed route account for about 14%. That includes the van pool program, which the agency has one of the largest van pool programs in the country, going out to the warehouse areas east of the service area. Access and FlexRide carry about the same amount of people, and then the regional connector, which just has a couple trips a day, is the lowest. And there's we've looked at some of the routes that were improved last time around in TOPS. Route 11, which shows up here, is now one of the top corridors. So we also mapped where ridership has increased between 2021 and 2024. So this map is kind of shaded from light green to darker green. The darker green areas indicating areas where ridership has increased the most on a weekly basis. And it's kind of hard because of the scale, but if you kind of look under that downtown area where that blue transit center is, that area is very dark green and kind of going out on East 4th Street. The area just south of Meadowood Mall, so there's additional trip activity down there on transit, and maybe an opportunity to provide some service a little further south along that corridor. Right now it's hourly service. The Sparks industrial area is showing up very strong, and just as a reminder, this is comparing 2021 and 2024, so this indication of people kind of coming back to work, and we've also seen general travel activity increase during that time. And then along North Virginia Street, there's a couple pockets up there. Another thing that we looked at is transit propensity. So this is kind of independent of where the service is now, where could transit work? And so we use demographics to look at each census block group to determine where transit may work based upon where transit is working now. And so on the table here, there's these are on the left here, the ones with the demographics with highest correlation include the weekly trip density, so where people are traveling in general, not just on the bus, number of jobs, number of persons with disabilities, the number of street intersections, and this is really a proxy for how walkable a neighborhood is, number of low-income population, and also college-age students, which the agencies worked extensively to work on programs for them. And so on the map on the right, this is showing again, from that kind of lighter grayish blue to the darker purple areas where transit should be successful. And in general, the route structure covers most of these areas. There are a couple pockets that are of interest to us a little further south in the service area, as well as some of the area just kind of north of the network in the eastern part of Sparks there. There's a couple little pockets that have popped up that are new. The other thing that we do early in the project is a peer review. So we compare the agency to their peers, and the peers are selected based on things like population, what's in the service area, is it a college town, what types of services do they currently provide. And so the peers here are shown on the slide. We used the same peers last time around. And we look at like 35 different variables, and we kind of see where RTC is a kind of an outlier, either positively or negatively. So in terms of some of the service provision, the agency is exceeding the peers in terms of the number of trips per capita, so the number of people riding the service per person in the service area, per revenue hour and per revenue mile. Paratransit productivity is slightly below the peers, so that's how many people ride the paratransit per hour of operating, and so that's something that we're going to look at as part of this study. One thing to note is that the agency's bus trips are very, very short compared to the peers, and that has to do with kind of the compact service area. Also, there's a lot of people transferring that occurs because of the transit centers, and so there's kind of like I would call it like a people here kind of are used to transferring between routes, and so that ends up making shorter bus trips. One thing to note also is that the bus speed is generally lower than the peers, so that's a finding that we wanted to dive into a little bit more and see if we can improve the overall experience in terms of how fast people can get to places. The chart on this slide is showing the amount of service per capita. So this is kind of, if you take all the miles of bus service and divide it by the number of people to get like kind of a per mile, how many miles the bus service runs per person. The peer average is 8.3, and RTC is just a little bit below that. However, this doesn't take into account the extensive FlexRide program that the agency has. This is just the fixed route. And also we look at kind of the cost effectiveness of the service. And so we find that overall, kind of on a per person basis, that the agency is spending a similar amount on transit to the peers. The route coverage is a little bit lower in terms of where the service goes, but again, that's complemented with the amount of FlexRide, which is outside of the general fixed route. Also, the service is very cost effective, and you can see here on the right a chart showing the operating costs per passenger trip on the bus service, and the peer average was about $12.40, and RTC is at $7.13. So that both has to do with the kind of the cost per hour of the service, as well as the number of people using the service to drive that number down. Now I'll move on to kind of what we're doing in terms of this phase of the project. So we have a community survey out right now. So in this early part of the project, we're really asking the public about what they want to see in terms of the transit service. And then we'll take that information back and develop some draft recommendations. That survey has been open since early September. It opened at the Senior Fest, and it'll be open until October 12th, so 7 weeks total. We have questions that kind of around each type of service, and then if you just ride the FlexRide service, you'll get questions tailored to that, asking about what's important to you about the service and how RTC is doing. So we'll be summarizing that information. And then for non-riders, we have some questions around why they don't take the service and what would compel them to use the service. The survey is available in English and Spanish, and it's really easy to do on a cell phone. So the 3 phases of the project. So right now we're in phase 1, which is the community feedback and kind of the technical review that we're doing. Once that survey closes, we're going to kind of take all that and work with RTC staff to develop some draft recommendations, and then take those draft recommendations out to the public in the early next year, so January, February, and we'll do the same kind of thing. We'll have some meetings, have a survey, collect feedback on those draft recommendations, and then based on the feedback that we get, we'll make final recommendations, which we'll take back to the board for consideration. So during this first round, we're right in the midst of the public meetings. We just had we had 2 virtual meetings and 2 in-person meetings. The last virtual meeting will be next Tuesday from 5 to 6 p.m. And so the next steps of the project, so we'll finish those meetings, close out that survey, and be developing those draft recommendations in the later part of the year, and then go out to the public, and then come back to the board with the final recommendations in March of 2026. Right. Concludes our presentation. Available for any questions.
Thank you very much. I'll throw it to the board, see if there's any questions. Mayor Lawson, do you have anything? And do you have anything, Commissioner Garcia?
I do. Thank you so much for your time, Mr. Hewitt. I appreciate seeing the data presented in that way where we can see it all for all modes. And on page 5 of the presentation where it's talking about the weekly boarding by mode, you made a comment about the fact that there's been a dip in access, but you're okay with it because it's more cost effective for FlexRide. Can you help me understand that better on an operational level?
Yeah, so a couple things that RTC has done is they've done some what's called commingling. So it's operating both the paratransit vehicles and microtransit vehicles in the same area. So if a vehicle's out doing a microtransit trip, then it might switch over to doing some paratransit. So it creates more efficiency there. And so that's one area that can be more efficient. Also, the access customers are using the microtransit service, the FlexRide, as a same-day service. So they like the flexibility, not having to call the day before. And so, and when they go to make the ride, that's a more efficient because it'll find a vehicle that's already kind of out on the road, and it'll match up a trip, and then it'll share the ride versus that next day service where they were reserving it the previous day and trying to match up all those trips. So it could be more effective to group the 2 services together, and that's something that has gone even the 2 softwares were kind of merged together back in October, and so you could see that kind of improving. So access people are still making trips; they're just now kind of showing up in the FlexRide category, and I think they like that kind of same day service as an option to the next day service, especially for things like coming back from the doctor and stuff like that, where those are harder to do. Sometimes you don't know how long you're going to be in the doctor's office and stuff.
Thank you.
And Mayor Shivi?
I'm just curious, nice presentation, by the way. Thank you. Very informative. You said that it was easy to fill out on a phone. What other capacity is the survey in?
It's online, so you could fill it out like in a web browser, or you could fill it out on a mobile phone. And I believe that, and maybe somebody could hop in from RTC here, but I believe also if you have issues with taking the survey, you could reach out and through customer service, and they could help you. They could walk you through the survey.
And I would love to share it with the city of Reno. Has a big following. I'm sure you guys do at Washoe County. I think anytime we have surveys, because oftentimes what happens when we don't do a good job of really pushing them out there, people will say, I didn't know anything about that, or I think it's a missed opportunity. So if we can help in any way, because we have sort of a larger following. And I would just say, Dora, it's really important that you fill out this survey. I don't know if she has. Okay, good. All right. See, I know my advocate over there. That's why I put her on Access Advisory Board. And so I just want to make sure we get every opportunity, because I always hear, well, I didn't know we were doing a survey. So anytime we can make it more accessible, I just think all that data gives us such a great picture and really tells a story of where we need to be. So great work. I appreciate it very much. I think this is actually how we should be making policy and be looking at everything, because it does tell what the patterns, the trends, those types of things that we need to pay attention to. And a lot of, I think, people miss the opportunity to do so. So good work. Good job.
Yes. Mr. Thomas, did you have something?
If the board's through with their comments, just wanted to make an observation for the board as we go and finish out this report.
Okay. I just have a quick follow-up on the community survey. So when you're talking to existing riders, how are we engaging with them when they buy their passes? Is the survey popping up, or is it in the bus, or how are we talking to them?
Yeah, so we advertise it on the Transit app. There's a banner on there that so as soon as you pull up the Transit app, it's there. The RTC Connect app, we also have a banner there. And then we are working on the car cards. So on the bus, there's going to be QR codes, and then we've advertised it on the website. So various different ways. We are also doing some paid advertising, so Instagram, things like that. So we're trying to get it to as many people as possible.
That's good.
Yes, and are drivers being educated about the survey as well to make sure that they know and they can tell riders about it?
Yeah, so I reached out to Keolis as well, let them know that we were working on the survey. Let them know that if the drivers want to take the survey as well, gave them the fact sheet, so they're aware, and then we'll actually talk to the drivers separately a little bit later on.
Great, great. And I think I really think the transit propensity slide is interesting, and I can't wait to see what we learn, because I know that we changed some fixed route in some of the, maybe I could be wrong, but I think we changed some fixed route in some of the areas where we think that there could be transit propensity in Sparks, and we've done microtransit. So it'll be interesting to see how that is all, it comes out. But, and I'm also glad that we're looking at the southern part of town, because we hear feedback that folks really would like to see more services in South Reno. So I'm really, I can't wait to see the data. That's going to be really exciting. Mr. Thomas, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. A couple of observations. One is, as we talk to our peers in the transit world, what we hear a lot is them saying that they're on fiscal cliffs. In other words, their systems have evolved to the point where they're at a point where they're going to have to really do some drastic things to maintain their operations. And I wanted to thank the board because you've let us, working with you, make it a very efficient system. As you saw on that one slide where we're the most efficient, I would argue, some might say, well, you need to spend more money or you need to invest more. I would say that's a reflection of making sure that when we set up people's lives or help people in their lives, have their schedule, their work, whatever, that's a reflection to me of reliability. Like that says that we're not going to pull a rug out from underneath of them because we've done a very efficient system that assures that we can continue to do it. So I just want to put that out there because we all know, particularly all of you in the situation you're in now, is this is a revenue source that operates our bus that is not controlled by us. It's sales tax. So there's a not direct correlation, obviously, the money you can invest to what your needs are. But I'm very proud of the board supporting us and our team in that particular area, because I think that is a sign of a healthy transit organization.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot to be proud of. And I know when I've gone to the national transportation conferences, we rank really high for the efficiency of our transit and also ridership as well. And one more thing, Alex, if you could reach out to folks in our jail and Jan Evans, because they wanted to participate in this, and I want to make sure we're not missing them. That would be great.
Will do. Thank you.
All right. Any other board comments? Okay. Thank you so much. We're excited to see you soon with the outcomes. Thank you. All right, we're going to move into 5.2. This is a presentation on the draft Central Sparks Neighborhood Network Plan. Welcome.
I feel like we should play that music on Shark Tank before they get to the presentation.
Good morning, Marquise
Gotta have
Williams.
music in
Yeah,
here.
you
We
ready
gotta
to
have
pitch
something
us?
to
Yeah.
liven
Pitch us
up
on
this
this
place.
I was gonna say,
What's
please
going
don't
on?
do
We
that.
need some. I want to see like some music as you walk up, like so we're pumping.
Yeah.
We got the energy going.
Yeah, Marquise Williams, Senior Transportation Planner with RTC, here to present on the Central Sparks Neighborhood Network Plan. These slides may seem a bit familiar, and this is the second of 12 neighborhood network plans, with the Central Reno one presented in August and approved by this board last month in September on consent. So in a similar fashion, we're here today doing a presentation on the draft plan, and then we'll bring it back next month with comments incorporated and shown in a comment matrix for approval on consent. So a bit of background, where does neighborhood network planning come from? Well, in September of 2024, this board approved the active transportation plan, which had an overall goal of improving the utilization of sidewalks and bike facilities in the region. And to that end, we broke it into 4 goals. So improve safety, expand mode share, maintain the system sustainably, and enhance community. It's from this active transportation plan that we got the active transportation program, which is where neighborhood network planning lives. And we also have several metrics to inform investment to make sure that we're making data-driven, data-informed decisions. The one that we mainly lean on is the gap analysis, which is a cumulative metric that encompasses bike level of traffic stress, pedestrian experience index, and other metrics that kind of paint the region in different angles and different lenses to really inform where the best areas to invest are. This board also approved a dedicated funding source, which I'll talk about a bit later. And the active transportation program has an active transportation technical advisory committee associated with it. And this is made up of staff from local jurisdictions, as well as Washoe County School District and Northern Nevada Public Health. And so that committee is really tasked with making sure that what we do is in sync and jives with other jurisdictional and government priorities. So a little bit more about neighborhood network planning. So we broke the region into 12 neighborhoods. These are our specific neighborhoods for neighborhood network planning. So the goal of these neighborhoods is that we wanted to focus on shorter trips. So typically when people are making trips on foot or on bike, they're shorter trips in nature. So they're going from home to the grocery store or from home to school. And they're at that neighborhood level. So we want to make sure that our active transportation network reflects that. And we also want to focus on network connectivity. So we don't want to just have one over-improved corridor. We want to make sure that people are able to get from point A to point B wherever they are located in that neighborhood. So we've broken the neighborhood network plan into 2 sections. The first is the short term, and that's where I'll kind of spend most of the time in this presentation. These are the quick build projects. They're 1 to 2 year implementation timelines. They're inexpensive to build, and they're easier to build. And we have a performance tracking process or strategy associated with it. And that's really to ensure that the investments that we're making, the quick build investments we're making, are actually getting the results that we're after, so that we're getting increased utilization on our sidewalks and bike facilities. And if we're not, we can look into ways to change the project or optimize the project, or last case scenario is just remove it completely and start from scratch. The second part of neighborhood network planning is the long-term projects. So these are more traditional active transportation RTC projects, higher dollar value, and they would be prioritized through our long-range plan, so our regional transportation plan. So a few examples of quick build. In the top row, we have some examples of neighborhood byways. These are traffic calm streets where our goal is not to have a separated bike facility, but just to slow down traffic on that street, on like a neighborhood street. In the bottom row are the separated bike facilities. So starting in the top left, we have a curb extension and then a pedestrian median island. Both of these treatments kind of have the effect of reducing crossing distances. So less time that the pedestrian is spending in the active roadway. And then on the top right, we have a slow street campaign. And this is one where this region has put signs or obstacles into the street just to give a subtle hint that this is a neighborhood road, so go slower. Gives those cues. And then starting in the bottom row, we have on the bottom left a protected bike lane with posts. So these are 2 to 3 foot posts. In the middle, there's candlesticks. These are similar to the ones on 5th Street in Reno currently. And then on the bottom right, we have armadillos. So it's important to point out this is not a comprehensive list of the improvements we'll be making, and nor are we committed to using all of these enhancements pictured here. It's just kind of a sample of options we have. So the neighborhood network planning process, we start with the existing conditions, what's on the ground now. And to get that information, we do an extensive public outreach process that I'll get into on the next slide. And we also, this is the first involvement of our neighborhood steering committee. So I like to think of these people as neighborhood experts. So we bring in staff from jurisdictions, police officers, teachers, principals, anybody who, I should say business owners, members of the community, just anyone who has an in-depth knowledge and understanding of the neighborhood and kind of can tell us where we should focus our attention. Like, where are there problems in the neighborhood? Where are there crossings that they use on a daily basis? Where do they bike a large amount? And this is all in this existing conditions phase. We also use those data metrics. And we take all of that initial information to our second step, which is the scenario development. So we put together 3 alternatives or 3 scenarios for each region, for each neighborhood. And the idea is that we're looking at the neighborhood through different lenses here. So, maybe one will focus on connectivity to schools and parks. Maybe another vision will focus on just overall coverage of the neighborhood. And we take these scenarios to our steering committee, the same group from before, and we ask them, do these alternatives kind of match the vision that you're looking for? So, and the feedback we get from them there is, we like a lot of what you did in scenario A, but we really like this other part of scenario C. And so we do a whole 2-hour meeting, really just throwing out ideas, and that kind of informs the final step, which is the final scenario design. I call it the scenario D. So you have ABC in the first round, and then you get to scenario D. And this is where we take all the information we've gained from the past 2 rounds. We make that final recommendation. So this is an in-depth collaboration with, city staff, RTC staff, our consultant, to make sure that what we're doing makes sense for the jurisdiction, makes sense for RTC, and it's what leads to the neighborhood network recommendations. So before we get to the recommendations, a little bit about the outreach process. We had 3 in-person meetings. The first one that was RTC-led was at Sparks High School. And then we had 2 kind of pop-up events where we just kind of show up to where there's already activity. So we had one at the Sparks Marina and one at the El Rancho Public Market. We also had a virtual survey map, an online survey map, so people are able to go online and pinpoint areas of specific concern. And like I mentioned, we had a steering committee comprised of city staff, school district, local stakeholders, and RTC staff. So a summary, moving into the recommendations section, we're recommending 16.3 miles of improvements in the Central Sparks neighborhood. The majority of those are those neighborhood byway facilities. So that's the traffic calmed neighborhood streets, bulb outs or curb extension treatments, not necessarily a protected facility. We're proposing 12.4 miles of that. Protected buffered bike lanes, we're proposing about 2 miles there. And then minor improvements, 1.7 miles of minor improvements. So that's, in Victorian Square, for example, where there's already a very nice traffic calm street, we just want to put in a couple signs here and there just to double down and emphasize that, this is a share the road kind of area. On the right here, I have a cut sheet, and we did a cut sheet like this for each corridor that we're recommending. It contains a project description, a map, a sample cross-section. It's not the hard and fast final design cross-section, but it's kind of an example of what we're proposing, and other information about each corridor. For more information, that's included in Appendix E of the Neighborhood Network Plan. So included in the plan and also in Appendix E, here's a list of the corridors that we're recommending, and I'll leave this for you to review and peruse at your leisure. So moving on to implementation, this is a quick build process, so we are really trying to get these projects on the ground quickly. Like I mentioned earlier, the board approved a dedicated 5 million annually for the implementation of these neighborhood network plans. We're looking to do 2 implementations a year. So it shakes out to roughly 2.5 million per neighborhood. So RTC Engineering is leading the design efforts for these neighborhood network plans. And it's important to note that we did a planning study. This is a planning study, and our costs are planning level costs. So RTC Engineering is going to take it from the 30,000 foot cost estimate level down to the 1 foot and below level to get those final costs. And I believe they'll implement as much as they can while still being respectful of the budget that we have allocated. And it's exciting to announce the target implementation timeline for both this plan and the Central Reno plan is summer of 2026. So the next steps here, today is the first board presentation. We'll be back in October for approval. The public information or the public outreach and input period has been opened already for this plan, opened on September 2nd, and it'll close September 28th. Like I mentioned, summer 2026 is the anticipated implementation schedule. And I wanted to note that the neighborhood network plans 3 and 4 are kicking off next week after being approved by this board earlier today. And they are the neighborhoods we're looking into are Sun Valley, Panther Valley, and Meadowood, Hidden Valley. Those were chosen based on the active transportation plan prioritization process and then vetted by our active transportation technical advisory committee to kind of right size and make sure that the order made sense for today. So with that, happy to take any questions.
Thank you so much. I will go to Mayor Lawson because this is his area.
Are we gonna have signage there that's promoting this is a neighborhood way, that's so that people know? I'm assuming we're gonna keep them off Pyramid and McCarran, then using the other roads within that loop.
Yeah, so we'll definitely have a signage component. We're going to try to have a branding process to this neighborhood network so that when you're on the network, you kind of know that you're on a designated safe facility.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Commissioner Garcia.
Thank you so much for the presentation. I'm a huge fan of these neighborhood network plans. I think our constituents are going to get really excited once they start to see these popping up throughout the region. This is maybe a question for you. How much education and outreach has gone to disseminate this information? This is a really new project, a really new endeavor that RTC has dipped its toes into. Does the community know that we're doing this? And if so, how have you advertised that?
Yeah, I can speak to that a little bit. Like I said in the presentation, we had the outreach process, so we posted that on our Instagram page, and we had a few pop-up events in the community. We also did a presentation to TIMBA, the Truckee Meadows Bike Alliance, and have been kind of spreading the word organically. I think as we go into design through engineering, there will be even more community awareness efforts. And yeah, I encourage if you have suggestions about how to get the word out.
Yeah, I would just encourage a larger messaging effort. This is a big undertaking. It's new. It's going to impact people's lives in a positive way, and I think we should just be proactive in the way. Aside from the outreach you're doing on social media and the little pop-ups, which are great, but for the larger community to be aware, I think it'd be great to kick out a bigger campaign for that.
If I can, just to react to that question, we will definitely be doing marketing of this so people understand, but probably the biggest marketing is going to be when you actually see some of those quick builds out on the street.
Yeah.
And I do want to share with all of you, because obviously this is your second job, you have your own jurisdictions, that this is a new way of doing business. So the current environment is the staffs tend to be pretty conservative about new things, particularly from the maintenance standpoint.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say struggling, we're facing that challenge right now of doing things differently. Because this model really is going and trying some things that are a bit risky because we haven't done them before. And there's a lot of uncertainties about will they really work? How are we going to maintain them? Who's going to take care of them? And what I would ask of the board members is if we're going to be successful here, there's going to have to be some leadership at each of the local governments to say this is something we really want to do. Because, and it's not disrespecting anything in any local staffs, but they have plenty on their plate. They have plenty to do. But to do this differently is going to take some leadership to let the staffs know that you think this is important and you want us to try it.
And Mayor Sheeby.
So I love that feedback, Bill. And I'm a big proponent, even if we fail, I think it's important to understand what the future innovation, all those things that come with when you take risks, they just do. It's just part of how it works. And so I'm a big fan of taking risks. And I think, it's when you stop trying is when you fail. But I would say, I want to know, Bill, if you're seeing any hesitancy at the city of Reno in any way, because I just think we need to think outside the box, think different, be bold, take chances, right? So I just want to make sure that the city of Reno continues to understand that the vision needs to be open and the communication level, because oftentimes I will hear, oh, well, and we see it even at the dais, that someone will come in for a certain process, I'm just saying out of example, and they will say, well, your staff said, and your jaw just drops on the floor. And it really happens. And honestly, I think that we have to do a better job of allowing the people that make our jobs, I guess, not easier, but make the success of the city and the region and how we shape it, give them the ability to create, to think differently, to fail. It's okay to fail. I think in this country, we really have this messaging that it's not okay to fail. And I really want my team to embrace this. Finally, thank goodness, because I shouldn't say this, but I will. I think transportation sucks and it's very boring. If you go over to Europe, you'll have a totally different, like, why aren't we doing this? Why aren't we, you know what I mean? And that's because I don't believe people have allowed you to think independently or say, let's try this. They've been too afraid. You probably had a boss that said, no, we're not doing that because this doesn't work. We got to stop that. So I think if there's anything we can do on the city of Reno side, everyone gets a little, they don't want to step on anyone's toes and they get a little gun shy, but I need to know because this is important. This is going to shape the future. It's going to make it so much better for people in transit and neighborhoods, and it's what we want to see, So I can't stress that enough because that one makes me the craziest is when, I'm hearing our team is resistant or they're so used to doing the same things over and over again. But I can tell your enthusiasm because he smiles at every turn when he talks about this. So thank you. I'm excited for you. It's going to be great. And Ed, you should carry the flag on this and be like, look what we're doing.
It's a big part of my life. But we have great events in downtown Sparks, and it's so much easier to ride my bicycle down there than it is to park.
Right.
So I'm excited about this. We'll arrange a ride with the community and show them the network. That's what it came to my mind right away is let's get on a bicycle and let's ride the network and just introduce it to the public that way.
Yeah.
It's exciting.
That's great.
Mr. Thomas.
Well, thank you. Good conversation. I just want to leave it with this, particularly for the local staffs that might be listening, which they do, is this was not intended to say that they are not responsive. It's just to share with all
He's
of
like,
you.
oh God, Hillary went off on, and that's not what
Well,
I
no.
mean, but I think you've got to
tell
give
them it's
them,
important.
you
right?
got to
They
give
will
them
respond
the,
to you if
I
you
think
tell
they
them
have
it's
better
important.
ideas than we do. You guys live this. You're the experts. We shouldn't be like telling you. You should be telling us you're the expert. And then it's our job, I think, to give you the encouragement to say, go be amazing, go be brilliant. And that's just what I mean. And I guess I just get frustrated when I see people at the top sort of thinking that they know everything. I think it's actually you guys that know what needs to happen. There's not enough of people like going back to the risk taking.
Yeah.
So I didn't mean to offend anyone. I'm probably going to go back to work and be like, Mayor Shivi, you said this about me. But I'm just saying, like, I hope that we can give you the encouragement and the desire just go make it happen. And if it works, we're all going to be singing your praise. If it doesn't, well, Bill will be like, okay, here's your job. No, just kidding. But if it doesn't, okay, we're gonna think differently. That's how that's gonna work. So I just need to clarify that. It's just, I feel like sometimes we don't want to put in the investment. We don't want to put in the risk at this level. And you guys need to do that if we're gonna build things differently.
Absolutely. And I think that people want to walk to the store,
Yes.
you know, of all ages. They want to visit their friends and not have to drive. And I've seen some really great social media videos saying, like, if you can get to a store or, you know, run an errand within, you know, so many miles, you know, get on your bike, walk.
Yeah.
And I think Commissioner Garcia has been a great leader of how do we get the kids and the family to tell mom and dad, let's get out and experience, you know, our community in a different way instead of being in the car. And so I think
Yes.
going to the schools, even speaking to senior groups, seniors who don't want to drive as much and want to walk. So I think that this is, honestly, I don't see this being necessarily a failure. Some things potentially may not work, but slowing down traffic and making sure that pedestrians are seen by vehicles. Like, Mr. Mayor, I went to the rib cook-off, had to park across the street from, oh my gosh, what road is that? It must be Prater. And crossing that street was, you know, harrowing. So people are going fast. So I think, exactly. So I think that even getting vehicles to see pedestrians and pedestrians to feel more comfortable. And I saw families running around, you know, running across. And so this is going to be really great. And I've seen the little things that say slow down in my neighborhood from when the Midtown project was being done, and they were effective. So
Yeah.
I think it's just making sure that we remind drivers there's people out on these roads too. It's not just you, driver.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I
So
love what you have done with kids. It's
exactly.
really, really good. I should probably clarify, I don't mean our transportation sucks. I mean, transportation sucks, I think, in this country. Yeah, in the
Mhm.
United States.
Yeah.
So
We're actively fighting against that.
we are.
on this
We
board.
are. That's why I'm saying. just
Yeah.
go make it happen.
Exactly. Well, thank you for your work on this. And I really commend you too, because the planning, this was very staff driven, wasn't this? Did we
That's what
hire
I mean.
consultants to help us with this planning, or did the staff mainly do, you did a lot of this, didn't you?
There's a lot of consultant help,
Yeah.
but it's been a collaborative effort between various departments of RTC, from engineering and communications and everyone. So
And you had to
The local
be,
staff.
yeah, the local staff, you had to be on the ground and see what the issues were and what needed to be fixed. So I think it also helps us familiarize ourselves on little pieces of the transportation network to make sure we understand what the issues are and why that they're there. So yes, we commend you. Thank you, and looking forward to approving this in October. Okay, we will now move to our reports. Mayor Shivi, you said you had to go at 10. You
I
have
do.
a
I'm
minute.
so
That's
sorry.
okay. That's okay. We got through the business.
No, I think I
items.
ranted enough. You don't need to hear
It
from
was,
me.
yeah, it was a great discussion. So we'll move into 6.1. This is a update from RTC Executive Director, Mr. Bill Thomas.
Thank you, Chair Hill. The RTC was happy to participate in Senior Fest at the Reno Town Mall a few weeks ago. We provided a ride bus and a flex ride cutaway for the event. I want to thank Susie Trinidad, Judy Belize, and Ruby Barrientos for their efforts in supporting this event and bringing the transportation element to people who participated. RTC provided free transit for two special events recently. The Lincoln Line and Route 11 were both free for customers during the Best in the West Nugget Rib Cook-Off. and the Virginia line was free during the Great Reno Balloon Races. These free services are important for our community because they offer a convenient way for people to get to these big events, important events, without the hassle and the challenges of parking and traffic congestion. So just wanted to put that out there, that we recognize the importance of our participation in those events, special events. This week is Transportation Demand Management Week. It's a great opportunity for people to think about different ways to commute. We encourage and spend a lot of time and effort making sure people know that there's alternatives such as public transit and many options that we talk about frequently at this board: carpooling, walking, biking, and one of the big ones is signing up for the band pool program. So we're continuing to really focus on marketing that. As you saw and heard from the earlier presentation, we're one of the biggest or most successful van pool programs in the country, and we want to continue that because it makes a big difference on not only people's experience going to work, but also, of course, air quality and congestion in general. I want to take this opportunity to thank Chair Hill and Commissioner Garcia for taking the time to tour the Arlington Bridges Replacement Project. It's not often we get a project that this complex and challenged in terms of not only the design, but also the implementation. I'm glad you had a chance to see the construction, and it is available for any other board members who'd like to come down and see. We actually will be, at the end of this month, I believe, Dale, diverting the water. So the big part of the river work that's been done on the north side will be complete, and the water will be diverted, and we'll start working on the south side. So it's going to be, we'll definitely document it, so if you can't get there, you'll be able to see it. But I think the 29th of September is actually the day where the diverters will be deflated and the water will be back in the river. You're always, of course, welcome to go on your own down there and take a look at it, but our team is there if you'd like a guided tour to tell you what we're up to and how things are going. RTC is partnering with Northern Nevada Public Health, Kiwanis, and others to put on the Wheels, Walks, and Wellness event. This free bike rodeo and safety fair is next Saturday, September 27th at Taglia's Paradise Park. It'll include free raffle prizes, community resources, and wellness information, bicycle and pedestrian safety tips, and kid-friendly activity. The event is happening in large part as a result of the leadership of Commissioner Garcia and Councilmember Martinez from the city of Reno. I'd like to close today by congratulating Lynn Smith and Tom Sumoto, sitting right up here. Tom's always at the front of the meetings. I know when you're here, Tom. Lynn celebrated his 15th anniversary on September 1st. Lynn does a great job as one of our senior IT analysts, making sure all of our computers, software, and hardware are up to speed. And not surprisingly, even if you dig a little deep, we spend a lot of time on security. And so Lynn helps there too to make sure that our systems are secure and that we do everything that we can to defend our data from not falling into the wrong hands or creating a situation where we're held hostage in our ability to use our technology. Tom started at RTC 1 year ago on September 16th as a transportation planner, and he definitely hit the ground running. Tom's been really active in a lot of our data efforts and will be particularly engaged in the Virginia Street project. I'm sorry, the Truckee River project. He does an amazing job with gathering data, putting it into our GIS, and creating information tools that help all of us, not only you ultimately as decision makers, but also our analysts that are on our staff and from the planning and the engineering department. So I want to thank you, both of you, for the work that you've done and will be doing. And with that, I conclude my comments today.
Thank you so much. Any questions?
I do, and maybe it's for Dale. Okay, so when I took the tour of the Arlington Bridge and you've got what you described as a fruit roll-up holding back all of that water, how the heck are you going to roll that back up, move it to the other side of the river, and then let the other channel flow?
Good morning, Dale Keller, Deputy Executive Director. Great analogy for the fruit roll-up. We'll deflate the fruit roll-up, roll it up. Actually, we're actually going to put a new fruit roll-up out, and then put all of that water into that north channel as we dewater the south one. So we're going to still kind of work, and we haven't finalized the details about how we're going to do it and what we're going to reuse or not reuse. But the 29th, that is the tentative date that we have set to make that diversion switch. Cool.
Thank you. Do you have any questions for Bill? Okay, thank you. All right. Oh, I know. Jeez. We'll now move into 6.2, which is an update from Paul Nelson, RTC Government Affairs on federal matters.
Good morning, Paul Nelson, RTC Government Affairs Officer. So it's looking pretty certain that Congress is going to have to pass a CR by the end of the month in order to avoid a government shutdown. Only one of the 12 appropriations bills has actually passed the House and the Senate. House Republicans have unveiled their stopgap funding plan this week, and that would fund the government through November 21st. Democrats are signaling that they're willing to shut down the government if they don't get some concessions from the Republicans for things like the Affordable Care Act tax credits. DOT funding is one of the bills that hasn't passed yet, and there is some funding that would allow DOT to continue to work even if the government does shut down for a temporary part of time. DOT is issuing terminations or cancellations of some existing grants and some signed agreements of funding obligations. They're expected to affect programs like Build, Mega, Infra, and Safe Streets and Roads for All, and those are usually going to be pedestrian-focused projects. I don't know if those will affect anything that we've done so far, but I'll talk to some of the staff members and find out if we could be one of those agencies affected. Senate Republicans are taking steps to make a rule change to allow batch confirmation of appointees for sub-cabinet executive branches and ambassadors instead of one at a time. So they're saying that this would be an more efficient way to get these appointees back on board. The first package would be 48 nominees, and that does include several that would go to the DOT. And that's all I've got for this report.
Great. Thank you so much. Any questions for Mr. Nelson? Okay. Now we will move into 6.3. This is a update from NDOT. Ms. Sandra Rosenberg.
Good morning, everyone. Nice to be with you today. I have a very short update for you today. There's only 2 slides, but there's a lot of notes, so hopefully I don't miss anything. On the I-80 East widening project, we are starting some geotechnical evaluations, so you may have seen some work out there. That is not yet the widening project, but it is very essential work to be done in order for that project to stay on track. So, oh, see, I went off script, and now I have to find myself here. So we're conducting the preliminary geotechnical soil surveys in advance of the future I-80 widening between Vista Boulevard and USA Parkway. Drivers will see overnight single lane reductions on Interstate 80 east of Sparks through December for this work. The future widening requires extensive geotechnical engineering due to steep slopes and rock formations. The geotechnical surveys will provide the data on the soil and rock features to help finalize engineering designs of the future interstate widening. And while we're expecting the future construction to help improve commute and freight travel through this ever-growing section of interstate. Now, in terms of the bigger project, which will have some impacts to the traveling public as we're under construction, we have the RFP out right now. I believe they've actually been received and under review, and we do hope to have a contractor and consultant chosen by end of this year, early next year, so December, January timeframe. The construction is expected to start in 2027 and last for about 3 years. So we're not there yet, but brace yourself, but it's going to be an amazing project. Similar area, litter removal on I-80. You may have seen some reductions in that area as well around this, last week, I think. Yep, last week, 7 p.m. to 5 a.m. I-80 is the only access to the regional landfill in Lockwood. Heavy industrial and commercial traffic is seen on this section of interstate along with commute traffic. And unfortunately, when trash is not appropriately covered, the resulting debris finds its way to the roadside. In fact, this section of I-80 typically has heavy debris within a day of being cleaned, so it's very difficult to keep up with it. Neither our community or our highway maintenance team members like the litter. Our highway maintenance staff perform more than 75 critical road maintenance duties, from filling potholes to maintaining and updating striping to incident response and snow and ice removal. So it's, we really do care about the litter, but the folks that are doing that are doing all of these other duties as well. Last week, 5 highway maintenance crews from across the region stepped aside from their other roadway duties to do what we call a deep cleaning. This is a tricky area to remove litter. There's geographically confined nature with the interstate cliffs directly on one side and the Truckee River on the other, and excessive travel speeds. Many vehicles on this corridor travel at speeds up to 100 miles an hour, can pose a danger when the drivers and anyone working alongside the roadway to remove trash, even when the road work zone safety protocols are in place. So we conduct trash removal in this section as often as we can, keeping in mind that the routine litter removal would impact travel for the nearly 50,000 vehicles which travel this corridor daily. Any lane closures for trash removal on this corridor can greatly impact and slow traffic and commuters traveling to and from the Tahoe Reno Industrial Center and other areas. I want to remind the public that every member of the community plays a part in keeping the Truckee Meadows clean. Trash and debris from residential yards, trash cans, as well as uncovered trash and haul loads blown from the back of vehicles do find their ways to our roads and public spaces. Motorists should ensure that all loose trash and debris in their vehicle is always covered and secured. And I would add also, please watch your speed. 100 miles an hour in that area is really unacceptable. It's a danger to the people driving that fast as well as everyone else driving on that roadway or working alongside that roadway. So, and everywhere else, please watch your speed in construction zones and anytime you're on the roadway. Thank you. That completes my update.
Thank you so much. Any questions? Sandra? Thank you. Great
Thank you.
work. All right, we will now move into item 7, commissioner announcements and updates. Mayor Lawson, do you have anything? Okay, Commissioner Garcia, no. All right, we will now move into our final public comment. Madam Clerk, do we have any public comment?
No public comment.
Okay, well, thank you everyone for a great meeting. It is 10:11. We are adjourned.